Hello from the Kodak Theater in Los Angeles and welcome to Screen Slam's Hollywood for Lunch. This week we have everything from Brad Pitt and Orlando Bloom all the way to shapeshifters and singing sensations. But first, we sat down with Brad Pitt to talk about his upcoming baseball-themed movie, Moneyball.
There are rich teams and there are poor teams. Then there's 50 feet of crap. And then there's us.
I'm not really a baseball fan. I don't know that much about baseball. It was the story, the book that I became obsessed with, the underdog story of these guys taking on a system and being called heretics for doing it, and yet in the end they changed the game. And since then, what these guys have done has been appropriated in business, in my industry, in football, other sports, and they changed the game.
We are card counters at the blackjack table. We're gonna turn the odds on the casino.
I'm heading in. Text me the play-by-play.
Wait, what?
I don't watch the games.
What they're saying is that the numbers weren't reflecting talent, and they should reflect talent better. The sabermetrics is a specific system evaluating a player's worth, and what they found was inefficiencies, and sabermetrics was meant to correct that.
What is happening at Oakland?
It defies everything we know about baseball.
Just plain crazy.
The one thing I know is it's still sports is a civil activity, and they can't outprice the working man taking his family to see a game. That if that's lost, then I think that the games are tainted. There's no room for corruption in sporting events. It defeats the whole purpose of the competition.
If we win with this team, we'll change the game.
Not only is there a new version of The Three Musketeers coming out this year, but we caught up with the movie star Orlando Bloom to get the scoop on this unique version of a classic tale.
There are things in this world worth fighting and dying for. We're warriors. It's who we are.
The story is a classic. It's a world classic. So, you know, it's a timeless story. And I think the interesting thing about our movie is it's a really fresh and contemporary, new telling of the movie. You know, it's certainly not for purists necessarily, but if you want to go and be entertained and enjoy, a 3D action sort of adventure and the adventure of the Three Musketeers, it's a good one.
The Cardinal rules the land. Buckingham rules the skies.
When you war machines will readdress the balance.
Instead of playing what I think people might expect me to perhaps be one of the Musketeers, it was like I get to play the Duke of Buckingham, who's a rather caddish rogue and, who's got a very healthy ego and, he's a bit of a prick, basically. With the power of the Empire of England behind him, the British Empire, he really doesn't have to draw a sword or do anything other than swagger and sway and throw his weight around and his ego and stuff. And that was a lot of fun for me because he's like a big, arrogant, petulant child, sort of, just a fantastically fun character to play. And
All for one.
And one for all!
yeah, it's a wonderful idea, isn't it? All for one and one for all. And I think it's that's one of the reasons, that I think the story has stood the test of time as well, because at its essence, it's a real kind of camaraderie and a real kind of brotherhood. When I was a kid at drama school and even before that, I always used to play the kind of the humorous kind of charactery roles. I wasn't really ever cast as a young guy as the sort of leading man type. So I left drama school and my first job was The Lord of the Rings. So my transition into making films was the experience that I got from working with some great actors on. I had a quite sharp learning curve through that experience. But it was really fantastic for me.
This week also marked the Season 5 DVD release party for the Showtime hit smash Dexter.
I was never really honest with you. I'm a serial killer, that's what I am.
Sir, what happened here?
The 5th season was really good. I found it to be quite effective. Like everything else, he just scares the hell out of you.
The interesting thing is that the writers reinvent this story, and they make everything fresh and new. And when you think that you've thought of everything, they always come up with something new, and they always come up with something good.
Being on the hunt keeps me sharp, focused. Plus, the better killer I am, the better father.
I think that he's a very likable and understandable type of character. And I think people kind of like him, period. If they didn't like him, they couldn't really take the show.
Season 6 is going to be an interesting departure. Dexter is going to be a couple years down the road from everything, and a lot has changed.
I should have killed you when I had the chance.
It's another chapter in Dexter's life, and it's post-Rita, which I think is kind of big for Dexter's sort of overall arc of his character. And it sort of prepares the audience for the upcoming Season 6, which I think is going to be fantastic as well.
Reach out and touch fate. Reach out and touch fate.
Being a total Gleek myself, you can imagine my excitement to talk to the cast about their first time on the big screen in Glee, the 3D concert movie.
Why are you all standing? They haven't even done anything yet! Sing it for the boys, sing it for the girls. Every time that you lose, you sing it for the world.
When we're doing the television show, we have, different camera angles. We do everything 25, 30 different times. And they edit it all together. In the concert, it was very much filmed live. They had the 3D cameras everywhere. And we did some takes. We did a couple days of shooting closer shots, but it was mostly live.
It was basically us just performing our concert, and they filmed it, so we got to perform live and make a movie at the same time.
This movie is very much a celebration of what happened on tour, which in and of itself was a big celebration, and it really highlights, this interaction that we have with fans. So I thought it was just going to be the concert, but it was about these people, and they made this really great story about, how Glee has affected their lives in a really positive way.
I'm probably like Brittany the most because I have those dumb blonde moments.
I relate a lot to Rachel Berry because I can get very dramatic sometimes. I really relate to Rachel. She really inspires me to just get over my flaws and just be who I am.
It's been such an opportunity for me to kind of stand up for other causes and stand up for other things that I want to talk about and help people with.
I met a young girl that she was a cutter. And it's not necessarily just for the show, but I know she has mine and Naya's signature, and she has signatures all over her arms of like different celebrities. And I signed her body.
It ranges from everything from, coming out of, kids just saying like, Kurt gave me the strength to come out to my parents, to like, thanks for making my day better. Being a part of such a positive show has really just enriched all of our lives and just, helped us sort of grow up as well. We've grown up, while doing this show, and it's definitely, helped us in our lives, but also getting to be a part of a show where we're on a television comedy, but at the same time we get to do something incredibly important. And as actors, I think that that's the greatest thing. I don't think we'll ever be lucky enough to get to do something like that in our lives again.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. Street light,
And finally this week we wrap things up with the sexy cast of the latest season of True Blood.
Now, in the past years, there's been a lot of inflammatory talk from politicians warning their constituents not to trust vampires. The truth is, vampires are as different from each other as humans are, and we ask only to be treated as such.
What I love about our show is it's not ashamed of sex. And, you know, I will drone on and on and on about the fact that we're allowed to murder people on television, but you can't show a nipple. And I think it's ridiculous. You know, sex is part of who we are. It's part of our world. Alan has created something where we are able to own our own sexuality. Each character comes to terms with their own sexuality and therefore their identity and who they are.
Obviously, I can't tell you if they're gonna get back together, but I think that there's definitely some unfinished business there. I mean, he was the first person she really fell in love with, and her first sex and her first, you know, all of these kind of big, major sort of life moments. And then she's gonna have to reconcile the fact that he had some ulterior motives from the get-go.
Bill and Sookie have reached a kind of point where there is respect. And he has realized that he's screwed up a lot by not telling the truth. He has tried to protect her from the truth, but that's not treating her like a mature person, so he's screwed up in that regard. And so he takes a step back this year and allows her to be.
No dead humans, or I will have your ass.
I'll deal with it personally.
What do you want from me?
Everything.
Season 4 is, well, it's about the duality of nature, generally. You're going to see a lot of your favorite characters in very different attitudes, very different positions than they were before. You know, so I think that, you know, with that comes a lot of different romantic combinations that the fans have been pining for but haven't necessarily seen yet. The fans are going to see some werewolf sex for the first time this year.
For season 4 for Sam, we, interestingly enough, there's a big time jump with all the characters. So we come in about a year and a half later. And of course, there's a resolution of what happened with Tommy. I shot Tommy, or did I shoot him, or what happened? And we see Sam, he's discovered this community of shapeshifters. And we're gonna explore this kind of the mythology of shapeshifting and how we define it on True Blood.
It's definitely my own and craziest storyline that I've had. They really hit her where it hurts this year. So it's great. It was really challenging and it was very character revealing for me. You know, she's got to really dig deep and either completely crumble or become a fighter.
It's going to be interesting to see how Tara's storyline plays out with the Wicca storyline. I think she's there by default because of Lafayette, and I think she ultimately will probably get stuck. But when you have, you know, vampires and shifters and werewolves and werpanthers, there's a lot of tension that's going to happen. You know, there may be a war or something like that. So, you know, stuff is going to hit the fan.
He is not going to embrace his inner witch. Lafayette is going to be forced to embrace his inner witch. And the witches come in and they wreak havoc on the entire supernatural community in Bon Temps, which is interesting for the vampires, who have been on the top of the food chain.
If they can control the dead, then they can control us.
So far, the vampires have had sort of speed and strength on their side, and most of the other creatures they can handle themselves against because of that. The witches, because it's sort of a practice that they have as opposed to just a power, you know, or they're not supernatural in that sense. If you meet a really good, powerful witch, she can do things to vampires that none of the other creatures we've come across have been able to do. So we're gonna see the vampires really struggle this season.
It's a post-Russell Edgington world, everyone, and we win back the human public one smile at a time.
That's all for this week, but don't forget to download the free Screen Slam iPad app available right now in the iTunes Store. Thanks for watching.